We'll go live on Facebook too, or YouTube too.
Oh my. Oh my.
Yeah, we'll try it.
I love it.
Yep.
So I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm not as smart as Caleb. So I'm hoping that I can maybe dumb stuff down in a level that you'll be able to make sense on some stuff. Happy to go through like a deal I'm working on or whatever you guys want me to. Happy to give any value back to y'all that I can.
Awesome.
Hey, Brenden, I'll go first. I don't want you to go too in detail on this. Just a short answer.
Yes,
I was going to ask it last night, but didn't. So ABC example that Caleb did last night. So is it common to be able to do a sub-2 deal where it's just A and B, where I'm buying from seller and I'm going to keep it for a buy and hold? Is that common?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great question. So can I be host, Chris, so I can share my screen?
Yep. 1 second.
I just like showing real examples and it'll hopefully make more sense than getting complicated. So yes, but not in Missouri. Okay. So for this is a deal we just went under contract on that we're gonna sell via a wrap, which we talked about a lot yesterday. Okay. So this home probably rents for, let's say, $1,800. Okay. The PITI on this is $1,500. After your expenses, you don't make money, right? But if you can find another exit, like an Airbnb or a midterm rental or rent it by the room to college students or something, and it makes money, then you can do it. Okay. So it's really just what is the best exit strategy for you? Okay. If there's an exit strategy where you're making more money, you can absolutely keep it. But for a lot of these mid markets like Kansas, like Missouri, like Ohio or Indiana, their rent's just not high enough to make it work. Okay. So like Texas with their really high property taxes, you can literally, the interest rate could be 2% and it's not going to work as a rental because their property taxes are just too high. Okay. But you can buy it and make it whatever the heck you want.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense. So it's not that it's illegal in Missouri. It's just that you just, the way everything's set up, it's just not enough meat left on the bone to
there's
make
not
it
enough meat on the bone to do
cash
it.
flow.
I
Okay.
gave Chris and Levi a sub-2 deal that I was hoping they'd buy a couple months ago, and it was in a foreclosure, so there was a lot of arrears and everything. And they looked at the numbers and they're like, unless we bought this as a wrap, I'm losing money for the next 6 months until I turn it into a successful Airbnb or something. And I'm like, that just doesn't make sense for us. And I was like, I don't blame you at all. Right.
Right.
So after you left, Dustin, I think, I don't know, I was standing there talking with Caleb, with somebody else. I don't remember what all we were talking about, but he brought up a little diagram and was talking about the fact that these sub-2 deals really don't work out most of the time or make sense unless you're somewhere between 20% equity.
Mm-hmm.
So like under 20% equity and over 90% equity.
Yep.
Or is that right? Did I say that right?
Yes. Yep.
So
So you can either do a seller finance deal with, if they have a lot of equity, like that 80-90% range. But if they have less than 20, you can do a sub-2 deal.
Hi, I'm Caleb Christopher,
Oh,
and I'm
I
working
didn't
in
mean
real
for you
estate
guys to hear
currently.
that. He has a video on that in here that he talks about. But yeah, you're totally right. Where a lot of times, if it's like they owe like 50 or 60%, it's really not going to work. And that's just because, as if you put yourself in the seller's brain, if you, let's say you had a $200,000 house and you owed 100 grand, they're expecting to probably make 80 or 90. As an investor, you can't give them 80 or 90 and take over their mortgage sub-2 because your cash on cash return would just be awful. So it's really just a cash offer that makes the most sense. But if they have a ton of equity, then you can do seller finance.
So that answers my question. Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't know where it's at.
Is this all Caleb stuff, Brendan?
Yeah, this is all Caleb stuff. Yep. He has a lot of good content. I'm trying to figure out where it's at. But yeah, he had a video or a short or something where he basically said, like, if it's not a ton of equity or no equity, it doesn't necessarily work for a sub-2 or seller finance deal. It's this one right here. Mid-equity deals don't work. And that's just because.
And so,
Yeah, I'll read that back
Sorry.
to you.
No, you're good.
sorry, just one stupid question, and I just want to make for sure, because I think I know obviously the answer to this question, but I want to ask it to make for sure. Somebody's like, oh, no, you're not thinking about this. Is it fair to say that if you find somebody who's a homeowner and for whatever reason they want to sell or whatever, and they're willing to do seller finance to you, they have to own that house free and clear to do seller finance? Is that correct?
Nope. So they can do a couple things. Okay. One, they could sell it to you on a wrap. Okay. So let's say, let me get a calculator out, like a Google Doc, so I can write it out. Okay. I'm not going to be fancy like Caleb and draw it because my handwriting is awful. But we can go through a couple examples and hopefully these make sense. If they don't, let me know. Okay. So let's say we have a 100K house. Okay. And they owe 50K. Okay. This is what they owe. This is their debt. Can everybody read that, or is it too small? You can read it. Okay. Perfect. So they have 50K in debt. And let's say their PITI was $1,000. Okay. And this was a 3% interest loan. Okay. It's bad when you're in real estate. You can't spell interest, but it's okay. And we're going to do a couple things. Okay. We can either pay them $1,000 plus seller finance the 50K, or excuse me. So we're going to take over sub-2 $1,000. Okay. Plus seller finance the remaining 50K. Okay, so that's one option we can do. So like this could be, let's say this rents out for, we're going to be really optimistic here, rent 2,000. Okay, so we could seller finance them, let's say $500 a month, and then after expenses and everything, we equal 250K profit a month, or $250 a month profit. Okay, so that's one option. This is called a hybrid. Okay. A hybrid basically means you have one payment to the bank, another payment to the seller. Okay. So that's a hybrid. What you can also do is buy it on a wrap. So you're like, hey, your payment's $1,000. I ain't going to give you $500 for your other equity. Let's just make it $1,500. Right. So then I'm paying them $1,500 a month. And then I still make $250 a month. Okay. Now, I think the preferred way to do it is this hybrid method. Okay. But I don't think it really matters which way you do it. Okay. This way, you're really buying it seller finance. That's what a wrap is, right? A wrap is seller finance. So that's what this really means. It's not really a wrap. It's just a seller finance deal. And they just are paying out of that money every single month, this $1,000, right? You just want to make sure whichever way you do it, you can get the deed if you can, right? Like if you can get the deed on a deal, it's always better because you get the tax benefits, right? But it doesn't matter if they owe 100K here, like let's say 50K, or if they owe 10K, you can always do it where, hey, let me just pay your mortgage still. And then you can give them cash in their pocket. But if you do a traditional deal, you have to pay off that mortgage and then give them cash in their pocket, right? So this way you can give them cash without paying off their loan. Okay, that's the biggest benefit here, is if they don't need a ton of money up front and they really just care about getting 100 grand. Oh, I can give you 100 grand, but I need it structured like this. Okay, did that answer your question? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It made a lot of sense to me. So thank you, because I really didn't, I really thought literally that you couldn't sell or finance something unless you owned it outright. I really believed that.
Yeah, yep. You can own or finance anything as long as everybody agrees to it. Right. And you just want to make sure that you use a servicing company, which you know what a servicing company is.
Yeah, who's
Yeah.
just a third party that's going to actually physically
Yep.
make the payment for you. And then I guess the point of that obviously is just to be able to help you with litigation in the future, but also that third party is professional at keeping all the records and documents and can run reports and gotcha.
Because the last thing you want them to do is to take your $1,500 and they don't pay this $1,000 and they just pay themselves $1,500, and then in 6 months you get foreclosed on and they made $1,500 times 6. Right? You don't want that, because then you get screwed. They get foreclosed on, obviously, but you also get foreclosed on. So any of the down payment you put down or anything is lost, and then they're probably going to prison. But
Sure. And the also neat thing I've heard about the servicing company too is, but me, the buyer, and them, the seller, you get a professional like email or an invoice every month proving, and you get to tell your seller that, say, hey, this is going to be serviced by a third party, so you're going to get this guarantee that your payment, your mortgage is being paid. So that's really,
you don't have to log in and make it. I'm not having to pay you and then you pay it. It all just happens automatically, and you get an email every month that says, hey, Merry Christmas. This weird investor paid off your mortgage this month for you. Right. So it's just easy for everybody. Professional, just cuts down on the risk and the worry for the seller and the buyer.
just out of curiosity, what's this servicer cost? You know, what is it? What's our structure look like? Is it per month or
It's
like
per month? I think the average is like $12.50 a month.
$12.50?
Okay. Yeah, $12.50 a month. So a little bit of a cost, but not terrible.
I think Caleb last night said something about what he's seeing is like couple $300 setup fee, and
yes.
maybe as much as like 40 a month.
40 a month. Yeah. So it can definitely get higher. It just matters on where you go. The cheaper ones probably aren't going to give you as good of a service. Right. Like he talked about Prime Corporate Services, which is basically like an LLC and corporate structure setup company. They're really expensive and everybody uses them who's in like the Subto community. So their services went to crap. Right. So it kind of matters where you go. But I would definitely trust Caleb over what I just said. What other questions you got? You want me to go through a deal that we have? I'm just here for whatever.
Yeah, if we don't have any questions right now, Brendan, let's just run through a deal, because I think it's gonna prompt some questions. So yeah, just run through a deal.
Absolutely. So let me pull it up on my Facebook. If anybody buy this, it is still for sale until tonight at like 5 o'clock. So this one is in Wichita. So I'll go through the whole process of like how we found the deal, and then also like what the structure of it looks like. Okay. So this deal is in Wichita, which we'll go through the numbers here in a minute, but we use PropStream. Okay. Which PropStream, I'm sure a lot of you guys have that, who's looking for deals or doing anything like that. A lot of people use it for, actually, let me ask the question. What do you guys use when you guys use PropStream? How do you use the tools and everything? What do you pull? What are you looking for? Nick or Levi or somebody, you guys have PropStream and use it?
Not using it.
You said you do or don't?
I'm not using it.
You're not using it. Okay.
I use it just to pull property data, basically drive for dollars. So yeah, owners, property data, comping. Yeah,
absolutely. So what I kind of do, and I'm going to try to do this quick. I go through and I do on-market properties. You can do off-market too. We do both. I go through and I go to the ownership info. I want homes that have been owned for less than 3 years. The less they're owned, the less equity they have, right? Let me zoom this in. You can also do this with batch leads if you have it. Go down here. We don't do anything with liens or bankruptcies. Let me zoom back out. So that shit. And then we go down to the LTV, which for those who don't know what LTV, it's the loan to value. So it's basically like a ratio between the loan divided by the value of the home. Okay. So we're looking for a high loan to value in a situation because we want low equity. So we want properties that have between, let's say it's $100,000 property, have between negative 50,000 in equity and 15% equity. So like 15,000 and negative 50,000. Okay. We don't care how many mortgages there are. I do care about loan type traditionally. I do VA and FHA loans. Why we do that is because the lower the equity, when you do like a 0% down loan, you're going to have a lot less equity than if you put down 20%, right? Then with this, we can do a market like Joplin, but it's probably not going to show anything. It showed one, okay? So this property we can look at. You guys can call it if you want to. And it's been listed right now for $415,000 for about 3 months, okay? They owe approximately $350,000. So if they sold this right now, they'd make probably 30 grand approximately, around that range. We can look at Zillow or Realtor either way. This isn't on here. We can go to Realtor and it'll show us some pictures. Maybe it'll say in the details, it'll be like, hey, they're relocating, or hey, they're really motivated or something. This isn't loading for whatever reason. But we call that agent up, we call the seller up either way and say, hey, I'm interested in your property. Can you tell me a little bit about it? We know they're in a low equity situation. We know it's been listed for 3 months and not a ton of people can afford a $400,000 house at 7% interest, right? This home has that makes no sense, 6.3% interest. That's really weird. So they must have refinanced or something. I don't know what happened. It says length of ownership. So they bought it 6 months ago and are now trying to sell it for an extra $50,000. So that's really weird. Maybe they're moving, maybe they're this, maybe they're that. So then the question is, this probably isn't worth 450 grand or 415,000 because they just bought it 6 months ago for 380 probably. So these people really should lose money on their home. So eventually they're probably going to realize that, Dustin. They're going to be like, I'm screwed. I need to sell this because I'm moving for my job. I need help. Right? So what I would do if I was trying to get this house is I'd literally offer them to pay their 3% agent commission and let them walk away. Because I think that's all it'd be worth. If I offered you to buy this house and you wanted, like, this is a primary residence, this is a duplex, I think. It says duplex right there. So if I offered you a duplex for $400,000 or $350,000 with 10 grand down at a 6% rate, would you take it? Maybe, maybe not, right? If you're somebody like Chris or Levi and you got big money bags, maybe you can afford to wait it out until you can refinance it, and you literally bought an asset for $10,000 that you can have debt pay down, and then refinancing at a way cheaper payment. So you could literally buy this house if they drop the price for $10,000. Okay. So what we do after that, we call them and then we write up the contract, go through all that, and then we sell it or we buy it ourselves. So like in this example for the Wichita property, go to that. They owe $238. Okay. We gave the seller and the agent $15,000, $14,500. We're assigning it for 10 grand. And then after closing costs and everything, you're buying a $250K house for 28 grand. Okay. And then we're taking over the payment at 5.5% interest. And then you could do an Airbnb because it has a pool. They had some decent Airbnb comps. The payment on this, I think, was $1,600, and the Airbnb would bring in 2,300 on average, or you could sell it on a wrap and make really good money. There's multiple exits you can kind of do with it. Okay. But with this one, probably don't want to do a long-term rental. I talked to one guy and he said that's what he wanted to do. And I told him you could, but I probably wouldn't recommend it. Right. Now with this guy, we had to talk to the seller probably 2 times in Zooms just to explain him, hey, this is the scary stuff with this. I had to go through all my paperwork and explain everything to him. And then after about 2 times, he's like, I'm ready. Let's get this thing closed. Okay. And then I found a title company that works in Kansas that does really well. The guy said, hey, can we use my title company? And I was like, no offense, but I'm not using your title company. I don't know them. I don't trust them. So I found 2 title companies in Kansas that I really trusted from references and everybody. And we're going to close here in 3 weeks. Did that kind of make sense? Step by step?
Yeah, and I appreciate you kind of going all the way back and just, hey, how did this originate? And then kind of going through that whole process. That's neat to get to see that.
Absolutely. And there's not a ton, like with how opinionated my filter are. Like there's only 1 in Joplin. So like not everybody can pull this and be successful in like this area. But like I am being really opinionated. So every deal on this list should hopefully, knock on wood, be a good deal. Right. So like we do a lot of marketing in Dallas. So there's 5 properties in Dallas that fit that mark. One of them has a negative 100 grand in equity. But I also go to all these little towns nearby, like Plano, like Richardson or wherever. We can get a ton of leads that way. So like for us, you could go to Webb City, you could go to Neosho, you could go to Nevada, you could go to Pittsburgh, and there may be leads, there may not be leads, right? You could also do this with multifamily. You could do multifamily deals and look for owners who have owned it for 30 plus years and don't have a loan. And you could do seller finance. Prop stream, if you're looking for something very niche, it's super good. Okay. What else you got for me? Jill, you got any questions?
I don't. I just appreciate this information.
Absolutely. Are you going to buy my Wichita deal?
Nope, not really a Wichita fan.
I don't blame you at all.
So separately though, Brenden, so I guess you're part of a group, I guess, on Facebook, and then everybody just puts their deals out there.
Yeah, yes, sir. So this is part of my mentorship that Caleb was part of. There was like a group picture that Chris posted with like, let me see if I can find it, like Subto. And that's just a mentorship that I'm part of. There's probably like 10,000 of us, and this is like Pace. He's the leader of it. Levi is a member of it as well. So there's probably like 10 of us here last night.
There was 10 or 11. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really good turnout for them, but there's 10,000 of them nationwide, and some of them haven't done any deals, right? Some of them are pretty new, pretty green, but there's a ton of training out there to go into this transaction. The thing I really like about this mentorship versus some others is like Caleb's a transaction coordinator or transaction consultant, like he said. He's somebody who can get value out of it because they're specialized for him. Ilias, this guy right here, he's a buyer, so they can teach him like, hey, this is what a good deal to buy is. Yvonne right here, he's a wholesaler, so he can learn how to do wholesale deals. And then maybe like Chris, he's just trying to find new ideas to maybe buy businesses or buy vehicles or whatever. And there's so many avenues, and that's what Pace is really big on. He's really big on finding your niche, finding your avatar, and being able to say, this is really good for you, or this is really bad for you. So like Jill, she's a lender. That's one of the things she does. There's something called Gator lending, which is basically lending people EMD. I'm not a big Gator guy. It's not one of my things, but that could be something where Jill's like, Subto is cool, but it's not really for me. But she's like, I'd love to learn how to be a better private money lender or a better Gator lender or something and make a ton of money that way. Okay, so they try to make it really well versed for everybody because it's hard to just be a one-trick pony.
Yeah. So it's all in Kajabi. So like each module, like you're saying, is broke down like by avatar, basically.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's not just sub 2. That's just one aspect of sub 2. Yep.
Cool. Hey, Chris, how many folks did you get a head count on how many folks ended up coming last night?
We're like, I think Levi's last one was 52.
It was a pretty good crowd.
Yeah.
I like the
seemed
new
even
venue
bigger.
too.
Thanks. They treated us well. Definitely a lot better.
Yeah.
Yes, 52 is what we got last night was my final count.
Awesome.
And there was actually about 5 people that had RSVP'd to come, and just for whatever reason or another, there was actually 2 sub 2 people that I talked to that had every intentions to come, and just something happened when their travel plans and weren't able to make it. So
Really?
yeah. But I definitely would like to have Caleb back. I think that we could definitely get some more value back out of him if we can keep the sub 2 conversations going, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's so intelligent. Like, he's just spewing with knowledge, as you could tell last night. Like, there's just so much that he could talk about. Like, he could go into like a nosedive and like novations. And I think like for people who do a lot of flips, that's something that you could make a lot of money on if they know exactly what a novation is and know how to do it. Like, that's something I know very little about. Like, I know what it is, I know how it works, but I've never done it. But that's something that his team does a lot. And if it's something where he can teach flippers who probably aren't going to be finding a sub 2 deal necessarily, but could be trying to figure out a way to make the numbers work where they make more money, that could be a huge value to them too. It's not just sub 2. There's so much more that it could be structured for.
How many do you have on your team right now, Brenden, doing this work?
Probably 13, something like that.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, they keep me busy for sure. Some of them are way more active than others. Some probably work 20, 30, 40 hours a week for me. And then some, it's like pulling teeth to get them to call people for me. But they're just JV agreements. So
do you make it?
Me,
you don't make it a requirement that they're a sub 2 student, do you?
Nope. I have 4 sub 2 students I'm helping. And then everybody else is non-sub 2 students. I try to pitch it on, I can get you started for no money down. You don't have to join the mentorship. Use my money to make you money. Like, use the money we earn to either join the mentorship or quit your job or do whatever. So we've had 3 people quit their job and like 3 people join sub 2 that I've helped. So pretty exciting, pretty cool for them. And it's really pretty simple. You just got to call people and make connections and learn some stuff about sub 2 and get me on the phone.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I'm ecstatic that you're doing that for people, because a lot of people wouldn't do that. So
yeah, it's my whole business. When I graduated from college in December, and I joined sub 2 in June of last year. So I've been apart for about a year. And I was like, once I have school start up again, I'm not going to be able to work 40 hours a week and call people during school, because I had a professor who literally made me do 100 pages in 2 classes in a week. It was ridiculous. Like, I literally had to write 100 pages in a week. So I just knew with school I was going to be too busy to keep a successful business going. And I was like, a year ago, I would have loved someone to come and mentor me. And I was just like, I can do that for other people. And it's just been a huge blessing to be able to help other people. The first person I called to try to help, they called me and they're like, I have no money. Like, I literally have no money. Like, I work at FedEx and every dollar from that paycheck goes to pay my bills and I'm still underwater. And I've made him 18 grand in the past 3 months or so. And he's like, that's more money than I probably made last year. And I was like, that's freaking crazy. So it's very humbling for sure.
What could we do? Is there anything we could do from the RIA standpoint to support what you're doing, Brenden? Like,
I think I love your education that you guys are like having people like kind of learn. There's been several big investors in the Joplin area, Springfield area, who are like, I just don't understand how sub 2 makes sense. Like, I've had like not arguments, but really good discussions with various people, and they're like, I just don't know why you would pay full price for something. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. Why would I buy an asset for 100 grand when I could buy it for 70 grand? Right. So I just love the education you guys are bringing to say, like, this isn't the strategy that's going to fix all your deals, but if you don't know what else to do, let's see if there's something creative we can do to do it. So I love that aspect of it. I love solving problems. So anytime you hear somebody who's like, hey, I don't know how to do this, or I don't know what we can do on this property, there's a lot that I can facilitate, or I know somebody who can facilitate to make some really creative deals happen. Like the Morby method, which I know you and Levi know a little bit about. Like, that's something where if you could find a really good multifamily deal where they wanted 30% down and the rest was okay with being financed, you could go buy a property for literally no money in your pocket with that Morby method deal. So there's some pretty cool things out there that we can do. We just got to like figure out what we can do with what we know and kind of just team up. Right.
okay. Yeah. Definitely.
That's the biggest thing. Just bring me problems, and I'm not like as smart as Caleb by any means, but hopefully we can solve it together, or even bring in somebody like Caleb to and advise us and make a crap ton of money. Because I mean, Pace has bought hundreds, if not thousands, of units subject to and seller finance, and he is worth a crap ton of money. One deal he bought, $0 down, 50-year note, 3% interest, no balloon. And that's just ridiculous, right? Being able to cash flow that much, literally be in the deal for $0 down, is just insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a big apartment complex too, so he's making some pretty decent money off of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't remember what I think he's making like $5,000 a month or 10 grand a month. I can't remember, honest to goodness, but it was literally, and this is probably the thing that puts him apart from everybody else. Like the bunnies, finding the reason why somebody needs to sell and be able to help them with that. If you can do that, you're going to put yourself way above anybody else. And that's something he is really big on. So like that apartment building, the guy originally wanted like 20% down, 10-year balloon, pretty normal terms. And then he found out his kid and his family hates that property because he lives 2 hours away and has to like maintain it. And he has to go there, and his kid literally asked for Christmas for his dad to love him as much as he loves his tenants. And Pace is like, let's make this property like literally your son's property, where every single month, that's his money that he gets. So when you're gone in 10 years, 20 years, whenever you die, for the next 30 years after that, he's going to get a check every month that says, hey, your dad still loves you way more than he loves his crappy tenants. Here you go. So he just found the story, and he's making millions off that deal over the next lifetime, right?
How many people have prop stream on here today on our group?
I've got an account, but I never use it. I'm so busy jacking with my typical deals that, you know, just local stuff that I don't have any desire to seek out, you know, call people, cold call, mess with the deal flow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just not my cup of tea.
And that's why like people like me bring you deals, right? Because you don't want to have to go through the legwork of finding the deal. Now, if I can bring you a deal that works for you, you're willing to pay for it, then obviously it's perfect, right? Or you have people who naturally like, oh, Nick's one of the best real estate investors in Lamar. I'm going to go bring him this deal and see what he can give me, right? And that's
the thing is I can look back and I mean, before I was even actively doing real estate, we were renting a house, and the owners that's the reason we started renting it, because they're like, hey, we're moving out and we just bought this thing like 6 months ago and we don't know what to do with it. We can't sell it. We're underwater, you know. And so I was like, well, we'll move in and pay your payments. No big deal. And they didn't pay their payments. So then it got to the point where they were being foreclosed on. And so then we're like, okay, now we've been paying you, but now we've got to go find something to do. Right. I mean, if I'd have known this back then, I mean, I could have bought for those, there's a couple of you that know the Lamar area here, but I could have bought a Lakeview house for $90,000, you know, in 2016. And so today that house is be at 250, you know, maybe $300,000 house. So,
and you could have bought it for just the payments.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
What else, guys?
I was going to say I have an account, but I use one of the things as part of the Kansas City MLS. We have a program for an app called Realist, and there's a couple other ones too that I use that does kind of the same thing as PropStream, but it does it outside of our MLS as well, so I don't have to just.
Oh, really? It's really nice.
Yeah. So, but it has a lot of the same information. It's just pulled from everywhere.
There's a program that title companies have access to, some of them, not all of them. I think it's called like Black Knight or something like that, Dark Knight. And it is amazing. It's like Humble's PropStream and anything else. It's a little more expensive, but like one of my lender guys out of Texas, he showed me. And like you can literally like see every house in the state of Texas that's like behind on their payment by like one payment or something ridiculous like that. So there's some really, really good software. Like PropStream's obviously just the basic plain Jane thing, but there's some that are just ridiculous that could bring you a lot of money if you have the right systems and stuff.
So I don't have PropStream. I've heard a lot about it, obviously, but isn't about like $200 a month or something to subscribe to it?
I actually share my subscription with somebody else. I bought Privy, he bought PropStream, but he pays $99 a month.
Oh, that's smart. Okay.
That's what
they give they give him 10,000 leads a month that he can use, that he can pull and everything. So he has quite a few that he gets to be able to pull. You're probably never going to use the 10,000 unless you're running like a huge direct to seller wholesale operation or something. I probably use a tenth of that because we really try to refine our leads to really, really high quality versus just quantity.
Gotcha.
I had a phone conversation yesterday with one of the original programmers, developers of PropStream. And he is now working with another company, and they're developing a competitor that will integrate a PropStream-like component, a Kajabi-like component. It's like a full robust CRM all in one place. Does lots of marketing, has lots of marketing, etc. And since PropStream was just purchased, they're ready to release because they're out of their no compete clause because PropStream was purchased by someone. So he called yesterday to see if, you know, I'd be interested in learning it and you know, seeing what it does as a realtor and an investor on both sides, because it obviously has all those components. So I'm curious. As soon as I get a hold of that, I'll show it to you guys.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Envelo kind of has that same model where they try to do it all in one house. So you do all your skip tracing and all your lead generation and all your CRM stuff all under one roof. Yeah, I've toyed with it some, but like I say, I'm not a lead gen guy. So.
Another program I guys about that aren't, and I don't know if the other MLSs offer this. It's called Remine, REMINE.
Huh.
So, I don't know if anybody else has played with it, but you can basically go over an area, click on individual lots, or you can set it up to search out for people who have low equity or no equity in an area, even outside the MLS.
I've never played with it.
Is that what you have, Rich, or did you say that's
what I've been using lately to try to track down leads? And in fact, through Remine, I can also, they have some agreement with some publishing company or whatever, and I actually sent out some flyers once, or postcards. So when you go into Remine, you can actually customize postcards and mail them out in bulk, and you get, you know, the bulk pricing for postcards or whatever. But just to test that, I was able to send out 4 postcards just because, just to see if I could, instead of having to send out hundreds. You know, I set the parameters really tight just to see what would happen, and 4 houses popped up in that neighborhood, exactly what I was looking for. And I was able to send 4 postcards for like $2.38 or something. So.
How many did you buy off of that?
What was that?
How many did you buy off of that?
I just bought those 4 postcards just to see if it would work.
That's what I'm saying. Did it work? Did you buy any houses off of it?
No, I didn't buy any off that 4. No, I'm sorry. It was just that was when I wasn't doing it to buy. Then it was like I had listed the property, and I sent those similar properties in that neighborhood those cards to say, hey, you know, and I only sent it once. I was just playing around just to see if I get a phone call. So it wasn't anything more than just I want to see if I can get away with this kind of deal.
Yeah. I mean, lead gen works even in our local markets. I mean, this portfolio thing that we've been trying to close for 6 months. I mean, we got that lead through a local list. So, I mean, and it'll be a complete seller finance deal, no money down, no, you know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it definitely works even in our hillbilly state, you know.
right?
Yeah, it's just follow up and being able to talk to people.
Yep.
Well, Brenden, I think I speak for all of us when I say I really appreciate you taking the time to get on here and just spill out all this knowledge that you have to us, and especially the way I appreciate it because you're like simplifying some things for me and just holding the hand type method just to show beginning to end. So it's super helpful because I'm just interested in learning more about creative financing and creative deal making. So
absolutely, it's my pleasure. I always try to be able to teach people in simple methods. My cousin came and visited me, and she was like, "So what do you do?" And I was like, "You really don't want to know." She's like, "No, like really, what do you do?" So I spent like an hour before this talking to her about wraps, and I had to like describe it with like a burrito and all this stuff. And she's like, "Huh?" I had to explain it again and explain it again and explain it again. So always happy to try to explain stuff. Obviously, as investors, we kind of know it better, but it's also sometimes foreign and it like doesn't make sense. So always happy to.
And it's also scary when you have to teach the title company about how to. That's always scary.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm very particular in my title companies.
I did come up with last night on the way home. I was calling one of my investors and kind of prepping him for, this, and hey, look, I'm going to start doing this. And I did kind of come up with an interesting way. I just told him, I said, look, a mortgage wrap is no different than if, let's just say, your mortgage is a Chipotle burrito, and I park my food truck next to Chipotle, and all I do is you order something, I go to Chipotle, I buy it, I rewrap it in a new shell, and I hand it to you, and I put my markup on it. Oh, well, that makes a lot of sense.
Yep, absolutely.
So the bare minimum was because that guy he's not a financial guy, and he's got money, but he's not financial. So
yeah, because that's what you're doing. You're just providing a service to somebody else, and you're just charging a premium for it because they can't qualify for it.
Yes, thank you, by the way, for doing this. This is awesome. I
Absolutely.
appreciate you.
Yeah, I was talking to Levi at the meetup, and I was like, he's like, "Did you have good value from this?" And I was like, yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And I was like, some people's brains are probably mush, so I'd be happy to come in and speak one day and explain it hopefully a little more simple. And he's like, "Well, we have our Zoom tomorrow. Why don't you do it tomorrow?" And I was like, my big fat mouth, right?
Yep, love it.
But oh yeah, absolutely happy to come in anytime and gibber yabber.
Well, thank you, Brenden.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely appreciate that. I was trying to get off mute there for a minute. My phone was not letting me get off mute. So I was like, what in the world is going on? But no, I definitely appreciate you taking the time and kind of breaking it down a little bit further.
Of course.
All right. Well, if that's it, we'll get on with our Wednesday. We really appreciate your time, Brenden.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
I'll talk to y'all later. And
Thank
if you guys
you.
have any questions, I'm going to put my cell phone in the chat, and I will also say it. It's 417-214-1242. If you have any questions about creative deals or need help with paperwork or anything like that, always happy to reach out. Okay.
All right. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Awesome. Appreciate you, Brenden.
Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
Brenden.